Hello everyone, thank you for joining me for my very first video of 2021. Actually, forgive me, this video is late. I actually recorded it and planned to have it up on the very first of the year, but I have been sidetracked and I honestly started out the year a little bit behind. But hopefully this will get us off to a good start. So if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button. This will just help me build a following and be able to make more art for you guys. So it seems like the year that almost seemed like it was never gonna end has officially ended. I feel a little bit relieved and a little apprehensive. Obviously we got off to a little bit of a rocky start. And I know that really nothing has changed, yet this whole concept of a new year fills us all with this illusion of a fresh start, some new beginning. And I guess with a year as tough as 2020 was, I feel like that new beginning is such an appealing thought, and I know that I'm not alone in this. It's interesting looking back on 2020. What seemed to be the most isolating and lonely year of the decade was also filled with tons of loss and tragedy for so many people. It seemed like no matter how many times we looked on the news, you opened up a newspaper, something bad was happening, and it seemed to just keep happening again and again. And I know that it was just a really rough year for just about everybody. It seemed as if the majority of the human race lamented last year. I spent a lot of time on the internet just during the quarantine, and I saw so many people who were struggling, so many people frustrated, grieving, worried, and so many of them just felt really isolated and alone. It was as if we all, as a collective, were crying out in despair. And if you just took a moment to listen, it was as if you could hear those cries echoing around the world. The internet's an interesting thing. It allows us a window into the lives of people that we would never meet, have never met, and would never meet. And so that's what I did during quarantine. I kind of just glimpsed into the window of other people's lives. This is what I saw this year. I saw a lot of suffering. I saw the inability to go to our loved ones. Excuse me. And comfort them. The inability to seek out our friends for support, to reach out to our families for guidance. This pandemic separated us, kept us from those people that we love the most. It took away our ability to be around those who could help us heal, help us process all of the bad things that were happening. And for many of us, we did lose, really cherished loved ones this year. Pandemic aside, there's really no way to measure for certain whether 2020 was any more or less difficult than any other year. But for 2020, we had to handle it by ourselves, without that human companionship that can so often make things better for us. I noticed something else this year, though. In the midst of so much political feuding, societal dysfunction, and overall frustration, I saw a huge outpouring of empathy, love, and encouragement to strangers, between strangers. I'd see this video of somebody struggling with some personal loss, and in the comments, such amazing collection of love and kindness and support and just empathy. People really do rally for one another. They want to comfort other people, to heal, to help. There's an enormous capacity for selflessness that I've been witness to this year. And in a year where so many people are at the end of their rope, to see that there's still so much love and empathy and patience out there is incredibly humbling. Because we hope for this new year, of all the things to come, I hope that we don't lose that capacity for genuine humanity towards one another. I've learned so much this year about patience, about how to extend that patience inward as well. I never really seemed to have enough patience for myself, and it's something that I've noticed and I'm trying to work on now. I've learned about loss and grief. This pandemic claimed the lives of so many people. There is such a vast majority, not even majority, I would say there's just a vast number of people who are grieving, and they're grieving just like me. And yet grief can be so isolating. It often feels as if we're the only ones who have ever felt it in the whole world. There are millions of people who feel this weight that I feel. I often wonder if they feel as alone as I do at times. And as amazing as that is to know that there are millions of people who know exactly how my heart hurts, I still feel sometimes like I'm all alone in the feeling. And I think that's the dangerous thing about grief. It keeps us isolated if we let it. I've also learned, even in my learning about grief, all about friendship and how to open up and to let others in. I'm not altogether great at it yet, but I am really learning. I have learned that freedom of the mind can bring more peace than physical freedoms. This pandemic has been so stifling, but compared to where I was back in 2018 and even before, I feel so at peace. Being loved, accepted, and valued as who you are is such a freedom. And I would gladly quarantine with somebody who lets me be me before I'd accept physical freedom with someone who tries to control me. This was a painfully intense year. I know that for some people it really wasn't that bad, and they'll say that it had some good things about it too. But looking back on 2020, that wasn't my entire experience. Of course, I had a few good hikes and some pretty trails that I found. I enjoyed the company of a select few loved ones. I enjoyed moments, but those moments were in stark contrast to some very deep darkness that I experienced this year. And while of course no one can argue the case that it wasn't all bad, to hear that feels really dismissive of just how dangerously important this year will always be to me. I learned so many strengths I had. I found courage, I stood up for myself, I stood up for others. I found my voice, and I didn't back down. My grandfather always told me, don't let the world take away your sparkle. This year after his death, I hit the darkest time in my life. And it happened. I lost my sparkle. And now I'm finding ways to never let that happen again. As this year comes to a close, I find myself really quieted. It has been such a difficult year. And with this new year, obviously, now that we are halfway in the middle of January, beginning, I am just filled with an utmost hope for the future. The worst year in a long time has now come and gone, and I am still in a healthier mindset. I feel secure and overall happy. And while there's no guarantee that this new year is going to be any better, I know that I'm going to continue to grow. I am going to continue to heal, and I'm going to continue to get better. And I hope that for all of you watching, for all of you who experienced just as tough of a year as I have, I hope that this year is peaceful to all of you. I hope it's peaceful to everybody. And maybe this new year will be the start of a really good decade. Well, that's about all the time I've got for this video. I haven't finished this painting quite yet, but hopefully part 2 will be coming very soon. So thank you guys for watching. Again, if you haven't, please subscribe. Bye!